Newcastle in the UK, Zadar in Croatia, Bratislava in Slovakia, Vienna in Austria, Prague in Czech Republic. I walked around all of these cities in under 2 days. Here's how it felt walking 100,000 steps in 41 hours. Hi again. So if you've seen yesterday's video, then you already know that I travelled to those 5 different countries in that amount of time and walked 100,000 steps. But in today's video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on how it actually felt to walk 100,000 steps in 41 hours. Without a doubt, it was the furthest I've ever walked in that amount of time. And just to put it into context, 100,000 steps is 50 miles or 80 kilometres. And I did it in these. A pair of pre-marked shoes. They only cost something like £7. That's about $9. And I was carrying a backpack which was about £20, which admittedly doesn't sound that much, but when you're walking that far, it really starts to take a strain on your shoulders. But the reason I wanted to do this challenge was because it was like a test, because I really want to do 100,000 steps in one day. And I thought just going over a day, 41 hours, it'll give me a good taste of what it's going to be like. The longest I've ever walked before this was 44 kilometres in Helsinki. That was all in one day back in 2015. That's around 55,000 steps. And I remember it well because I could barely walk by the end of the day. It was almost like traumatic. Well, I managed to break that record by walking 72,000 steps on the second day of this challenge, which is around 35 miles or about 50 kilometres. And I'm almost 10 years older now since 2015, so I'm pretty proud of myself for actually doing this. But it would have been a lot more difficult if I hadn't had those little bus journeys in between where I got a chance to rest. Although I guess there's an argument to say that, sitting down on a bus, you're breaking up the momentum of a continuous journey. So some people might say, well, it's easier to just keep going until you've finished it. But because I had a bit of pain in my right foot on the second day, it was actually good for me to have a bit of rejuvenation time. I think it really actually helped me personally. So yeah, the second day was when I walked the most. First day I did, I think it was 28,000 steps. It's all a bit of a blur now. It was earlier this week. And for me, normally around 25,000 steps is when I start to feel the burn. Everybody's probably different, but for me, 25,000 steps is when I start to feel it. So yeah, end of that first day, 28,000 steps. That was when I first started to get those little signs of discomfort. Then I had a long bus ride that brought me to Slovakia, and that was the start of that second day. Again, on that second day, when I got to around 25,000 steps while in Vienna just before lunchtime, that was when it started to get a bit sore. Now, bear in mind, most days I walk about 10,000 steps anyway. It's pretty unusual for me to not do 10,000 steps in a day. In fact, I'd say that probably twice a week I get near 20,000 steps. So this wasn't that unusual for me. I know for other people that have never done this before, that might seem like a lot. But for me, I'm quite used to walking that amount. I think the average is something like 4,000 or 6,000 steps a day. For sure, the hardest part of this challenge was getting to Prague in the Czech Republic. At this point, I'd done about 50,000 steps, and I knew that I still had to do another 23,000. And 50,000, when you get to 50,000, that's when it becomes a bit weird, actually. Because what happens is your body starts to react to the fact that you're pushing yourself to your limits. And a whole cocktail of chemicals get released. This is something that happens in the brain because endocannabinoids and neurotransmitters signal the release of these chemicals. You get endorphins, you get more dopamine. It's like a natural painkiller, but it also makes you feel kind of like a little bit like you're high, a bit like if you've ever smoked weed, then you'd know the feeling. It's almost like you're floating and you feel this sense of euphoria. And it's just a very nice, blissful feeling because you've got the pain relief symptoms plus these floaty euphoric feelings. That's the best way I can describe it. And obviously, when you've walked 50,000 steps, there's going to be some pain and sore muscles somewhere. And at this point, my shoulder was really hurting from carrying the backpack. I had quite a bit of pain in the bottom of my right foot, as I mentioned. And my knee was hurting. I don't even know why that was hurting. My ass hurt, but that was probably from the bus. And yeah, there was just quite a feeling of exhaustion. So the body purposely releases these chemicals to give you like a second wind to keep pushing you forward, because if this was back in the day and it was a life or death situation, then it's basically like a survival instinct to help you to get yourself to safety and survive, I guess. And this did give me that extra boost to walk those last 12 miles until I finally reached my last destination, a lookout tower over the city of Prague. Obviously, completing this challenge, there was a wonderful sense of accomplishment. This is one of the reasons I do these challenges. I believe that everybody should do some kind of challenge on a regular basis, at least once or twice a year. Do some kind of big challenge that really pushes you. You gain confidence from it. You become a more resilient person. It's another reason that I do the frugal living stuff. I just think that any time that you're challenging yourself, you're forcing yourself to grow, and that is one of the main reasons that I do this, and I encourage anybody out there who's watching to do the same. It's an amazing feeling, and it really taps into that primal side of us. We might have the luxury now of living in a comfortable society, but back then we wouldn't have. We would have had to endure really harsh discomfort, and by doing a big challenge like this, it really taps into that primal side. Yeah. So, like I said, this is a rehearsal because I want to do 100,000 steps in a day, and I'm hoping to do that over the summer. I'm planning to walk the Northumberland coast in England. It's the top northeasterly part of England, just beneath Scotland. It's a very beautiful part of the world, full of old castles, quaint British market towns, and 100 kilometres of beautiful beaches. If I was to walk it all, it would actually be 120,000 steps, but I believe I can do it. So if you want to see that video once I've completed that challenge, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out yesterday's video because you haven't already seen it, I will leave a link in the description for that. And next weekend, I'm going to be talking about why challenges are so important in our lives, what the benefits are. I'm going to go way deeper on that topic, and should be a really interesting, fun one. If you want to like this video as well, that would mean a lot to me, but you don't have to. Entirely up to you. I'll hopefully see you next time. Ciao.